Hey guys, it's Danny. I am back. My cold is under control enough that I can sit down and film. I will warn you, I will talk mildly zen in a few videos because if I just talk too much, my throat is gonna get super irritated. I'm gonna start to cough for 10 minutes. I'm gonna cry. My makeup will be on the table pretty much. So you're gonna have to bear with me for a few videos. I will try not to strain my throat way too much. It's not a new thing I'm trying, don't worry. But yeah, maybe today's video will be mildly ASMR-ish. I hope, I don't know. But today we're gonna do a Q&A, our monthly Q&A, the video series where I try to answer as many of your questions as possible, the questions you left under these videos. So let's get to it. Before we start, this video, together with this entire series, is of course sponsored by rePotme.com, who offers you everything you could possibly need to properly take care of your orchid, from pots to potting mixes, fertilizers, accessories, and everything in between, even grow lights, which I personally really like. And not only for orchids, but also for other houseplants as well, such as cacti and succulents. So I'll link you to their website down below in the description and in the pinned comment. Feel free to check them out at any time. Thank you so much for sponsoring me for 6 years. Oh my goodness. And with that said, let's get cracking. Let's drink some water first, just to make sure we can talk. I'm gonna spill it, I just know it. Right, first questions from Orchid's Balcony. Can you suggest a grow light for Vanda orchids? Well, the brighter the better for Vandas. I personally don't seem to have much success with the typical very big Vandas under my Barina grow lights or under, let's say, lower intensity lights, where Cattleyas usually grow great, and not to mention Phalaenopsis and everything. Vandas have kind of struggled for me, so I always try to keep my Vandas either outside, either close to a window where they receive southern or western light. I find that the big Vandas, they do require quite a lot of light, so maybe if you have the finance and the space to get one of those very big grow light or LED panels, that would be, I believe, more suitable for Vandas. But there are also those tinier Vandas, such as the Aeritas, Rhynchostylis, Rhenantheras, and then crosses in between them. I find those work great with your typical grow lights. I do have a video on artificial light or grow lights. I'll link it to down below so you'll learn more. The tinier Vandas, Neophonetia hybrids, again, I find they do okay with my grow lights, so nothing necessarily special. Whatever grow lights you use for other houseplants or orchids should work great. But I do find that the the larger Vandas, such as Vanda sanderiana or the blue Vandas you find in flower shops, those tend to not perform as good, not bloom as good under the lower intensity grow lights. So the brighter the better for Vandas, or just try to go for the tinier Vandas or Vanda hybrids, which I personally like because I have more space for them. Alright, next question from Maggie. My heater broke for 3 weeks this winter and my orchid dropped all her leaves. Her crown looks dead, but her roots are still a beautiful green. Is she dead or will she come back? Am I too stubborn to give up and still water her? Please help. Absolutely not. So it all depends on the amount of damage. An orchid's core, if you will, is the stem, not the leaves, not even the crown necessarily. It is the actual axis, the actual core, a Phalaenopsis orchid, I should say, which I'm not sure if you have a Phalaenopsis, but I'm kind of guessing by how you phrased your comment. So even if an orchid loses all of its leaves, and even if it has crown rot, if there is a portion of that stem still alive, then there is definitely hope, because from the stem, everything grows. Spikes, keikis, roots, leaves, everything. So if you lost the crown or the leaves, definitely your orchid will probably opt for a keiki, most likely a basal keiki that will come from the stem. Now, is there anything left alive from the stem? That's hard to tell. It's always a good idea to just keep the orchid until, you know, everything is completely dry. If the roots and everything are completely dry, then, you know, the orchid is kind of bye-bye, and that's okay. It happens a lot. Don't worry about it. But as long as you still have the roots, or maybe you still have a little bit of stem there, there is definitely hope. Just water the orchid when the medium and the roots are dry, And fingers crossed, I really hope you're gonna get a cakey. Surprises happen. The thing is though, nobody can tell you for sure, and it's a waiting game. All you can do is wait at this point, but it might actually be worth it. And good luck. This comment has been left quite a long time ago. Let me know, how is your orchid today? Right, next comment from my viewer YRMYPPPT. Hi Danny, quick question. I was watching one of your older videos and you mentioned you don't cut polychilos and novelty Phalaenopsis flower spikes. True. Polychilos, I understand, but why not novelty phals? I recently got a Phalaenopsis surf song and that's how I heard this word in my mind. And I want to cut the spikes so bad. But I'm starting to think I shouldn't. Had 3 spikes, I cut only 2. I cut 1 already, 2 left. It's growing a new leaf and it's still producing buds and on the spikes. I want big leaves, but I'm worried about what I might miss if I cut the spikes off. Think it would matter either way with this one? Here is the problem with the novelty hybrids. You don't know exactly what heritage they inherited. Is that a pleonasm? Pleonasm. You don't know exactly if they lean more towards the polychilos or more towards the Phalaenopsis subgenus. Now, in the case of the polychilos subgenus, the flower spikes can produce blooms for years and years and years. In the case of the Phalaenopsis subgenus, not so much. Yes, they can have branches and secondary spikes, and yes, the flower spikes can linger from year to year, but the show will not be so great with those orchids. So you can absolutely cut anything you want whenever you want. There's no problem. You're not gonna mess up the orchid. You're not gonna harm it in any way. I cut Phalaenopsis flower spikes in June because I can't deal with the secondary spikes that have 2-3 blooms. I can't. I cut everything, so I leave them a clean, as I like to call it, vegetative growth, and that's it. I hack everything because that's how I feel like. If you feel like you want to completely remove these spikes, okay. Why I say, and I think other people say that maybe even with the novelties, don't cut the flower spikes and see what happens, is because maybe some of these novelties inherited more of the polychilos traits. So not only will you have fewer flowers, but also those flower spikes can linger on and produce the same amount of flowers year after year. So if you cut them, you're gonna miss out on some flowers. Like, that's the worst. And you guys need to understand, whenever we cut flower spikes, all we do is just potentially miss out on some flowers. That's it, nothing more. You're not damaging, oh, and maybe some cakeys, but you're not damaging the orchid in any way, you know? So if you really want to cut the flower spikes, cut them. If you don't, if you want to leave one and see if the orchid will rebloom from the same flower spike with the same intensity, leave it. It's up to you. Do whatever you feel like. There's really no rule. But usually that's the problem with the novelties. You don't know exactly how they're gonna behave. Some will just behave like a Phalaenopsis subgenus. And, you know, the secondary branches or like the continuation of the branch will be poor and not worth keeping, you know? There are just so many hybrids these days that you cannot really tell. You don't know how it's going to react. Even if you have a primary hybrid, you don't know how it's gonna react. So it's up to you, really. No harm done if you want to cut those flower spikes. Alrighty, next comment or question from Tammy Griffiths. I have a couple of Phalaenopsis orchids that are growing new leaves, but the leaves are splitting in two. Do you have any idea why that might be happening? I do, actually. It could be something related to dehydration, or dehydration followed by a sudden hydration. Oh. Oh. Little parenthesis here. Do you guys just like wake up with bruises on your body and are like, the heck did I do in my sleep? This. And you just don't pay attention to it. I kick the car on a daily basis. My knees are like full of bruises, and sometimes I don't realize it, but sometimes I'm like, you know, I kick the car, I'm like, now it makes sense. Right, yeah. So typically this happens when an orchid doesn't get enough hydration and the leaves don't stretch to their full potential, and then it gets a sudden hydration, which makes the leaf swell, but it's already in a weird shape. It's not nice and straight. It's already a little bit curved, and it hydrates, and because of that pressure within the leaf, it splits in the middle. Have you noticed that there is like a nerve or a membrane in the middle of the orchid? That is a point of sensitivity. I'm looking for a word. Weakness. Okay, it's a point of weakness. So apply the correct pressure in the correct ways and it will split from there. So in my experience, that's typically what happens. So you might want to see if your watering regime might not be very on point. If you know you let your orchid dry out way too much and it's getting a little dehydrated and then you water it thoroughly, that might be the reason why. Now, this is the most common reason that I find, but there are also other reasons that have to do with genetics. Sometimes, orchid hybrids have some deformities, let's say, in which, I need water. Oh my gosh, am I gonna be able to film today? I'm doing my best, I'm sorry. So sometimes the leaves will grow maybe more curved than usual or in a weird shape, or, genetically wise, maybe they're not the greatest specimen of life, and sometimes these splits happen just because of the shape of the leaf. If your orchid constantly gets them, I believe it's one of two reasons: either a dehydration and sudden rehydration issue, or just an individual that has some genetic issues. In any case, if it just splits a little bit, it's okay. The wounds will callus over and everything should be fine, but I would try to address a little bit the watering schedule and maybe don't let the orchid dry for way too long in between waterings. Alrighty, next comment from Dante. Do novelty hybrid phals bloom like other polychilos or summer blooming phals if their parents or genes are all in the polychilos subgenus? I'm looking for orchids that don't need a drop of temperature to bloom, like the polychilos subgenus. Thanks in advance. Yes, if you have a hybrid that only has polychilos types orchids in its parentage, yes, it will absolutely inherit the polychilos traits, right, that don't need a cool down. And even some hybrids that have mostly polychilos, but you have one Phalaenopsis subgenus there, 5% heritage, even those can act very well. They don't necessarily need, that cool down, so you can definitely try some of those as well. So yeah, chances are your orchid will behave just like the species will. Next question from Matt. My Dendrobium Nobile went through winter rest, but it is putting out 3 new pseudobulbs and never put out any buds. Should I start watering or wait for the buds? Thanks. Well, this was 2 months ago. I think you already have the answer, but hopefully we're gonna answer for other people. Depends. Sometimes, yes, some nobiles will start to put out tiny little growths even before you have full buds. But you should be able to see on the sides of the existing older canes, you should be able to see if you have any bumps. They don't have to be buds, just bumps. If you see bumps, if they already poked through the skin, you're absolutely fine to water. There used to be this theory many years ago that if you get them out of the cool down too fast, even if they have the bumps, those bumps will transform into cakeys. My experience has been that it's not gonna happen. I did it on purpose when I was living in Romania. By the way, this climate is not good for Dendrobium nobilis. That's why I don't have any of them. They get all messed up with the seasons. But in Romania, I was quite a good Dendrobium orchid grower, Dendrobium nobile. So I did a lot of experimenting back then, and I discovered that you can water them, you can do anything. Don't fertilize necessarily just yet because it's not necessary. But if you see the bumps, yes, you can water. The thing is though, if your orchid doesn't ask for water, even if it has new growth, don't water. And when I say ask, I mean the canes. Do they shrivel quite a lot? If they do, you need to water it, no matter what. If they don't, then don't water it. But honestly, some nobiles will start to create new growth before the buds come. But it also happens that sometimes the nobile will just not want to bloom because, I don't know, you didn't give a low enough temperature, or maybe your climate is not so great and it doesn't really know what to do and when to grow vegetatively, when to bloom. But my guess is you will have buds. Just don't water the orchid until it asks you for water. If it asks you before the buds become visibly buds, it's okay, water it. Next question from Dearest Maya. Dear Danny, here's a question. Whoa, lots of Dendrobium Nobile questions. When a Dendrobium Nobile is producing a new cane and starts forming buds at the same time in the winter, should I keep watering it or cut the water or water every once in a while? I have this happening now and I give my Dendrobium a bit of water twice a month. Thank you. Yeah, as I was saying, some Dendrobiums will create new growth as they actively have buds, and it's absolutely fine to water. Don't put Dendrobium on a normal watering schedule like in the summertime. Wait for it to maybe shrivel a little bit and then give it water, because those tiny growths don't require as much resources at this point. If you see the orchid like really shriveling, yes, absolutely water it. If not, don't. Or water it, twice a month like you are watering now, and it should be absolutely fine. I think by now your Dendrobium Nobile should be in bloom. Next question from Christine. How do you know when to expect blooms for young orchids? I have a tendency to buy seedling or young orchids because they're less expensive, true, very tempting. But some of the varieties I can't find enough information on when to expect them to bloom in terms of age and season. Right, so Sally, really depends. It depends on each orchid. I don't know if you've been up to date with my seedling Cattleyas. Some of them already tried to bloom, and I bought them as 36 months to maturity, kind of all of them. Some of them have already started to or tried to bloom. They failed because they're very young. Some, they're nowhere near. Some are already mature or like young plants. It really depends on the type of orchid, on its speed of growth, mostly, and especially with Cattleyas. You have those that just grow one suitable per direction of growth per year, and then you have those with continuous growth. So you can expect those to start blooming after a year or two, and the others maybe 3, maybe 4. It really depends on so many things. Also, Phalaenopsis. You might be getting a seedling Phalaenopsis, and they bloom typically when they're quite young. So for a novelty Phalaenopsis or like a polychilos, you can expect blooms when it's kind of like this in the summer, because usually that's when they bloom. If it's a Phalaenopsis subgenus, you can expect them in the winter, even if the orchid is tiny and theoretically it shouldn't bloom. But we've all found those mini Phalaenopsis at the flower shop that turn out more of a medium Phalaenopsis. Yeah, they're put on sale when they're very, very young. And as you can see, they don't produce a lot of blooms. Definitely not full potential, but they can bloom. So it really depends. There is no answer. Depending on the orchid, expect them after 1 year, maybe, or 2 or 3, or 4 if you set back the seedling. Don't set back seedlings. Right, next question. Sorry if this has been asked or shown before. How do you clean your orchid leaves in general and to protect against pests? Any special tools like cloths and such? Thank you for your time. Honestly, no. Typically, I just shower them. I make sure to do this when it's already warm, not in the winter, because I'm in danger of rotting the crown and everything. In a home environment, you're always in danger of causing some damage, sadly. But especially if you can keep your orchids outside for a little while in the warm season, what I like to do is just shower them with the hose, and that takes care of most of the dust. You don't need to scrub like the leaves or anything, just a shower should suffice. And protect them from pests. I don't do like protective treatments or anything of the sorts. If I see some pests, I use leaf shine from a distance. I don't shine my orchids. I cannot be bothered to do that, but I have found after 12 years of trial and error that when you have a lot of orchids, you cannot be faffing about with neem oils and stuff. Yes, I have my recipes that you can do at home, and I still do them sometimes, but as my collection grew, my time decreased. And what I'm doing now is just, spraying a little bit of leaf shine. I think I talked about it in other videos. I don't spray the orchid like this. I just spray it from a distance, because that mineral oil is actually a very, very good mechanical insecticide, let's say, if you will, for any pest, any. Oils are pest killers pretty much. You have to be very careful with them because you can damage the orchid, but I learned how to use them. So pretty much that's what I do. When I see something, I do it then and there, but I don't do preventative sprayings or stuff. I just don't have time. And the last question, or actually it's a comment that I wanted to address for today. It is a comment from Sarah, and it's a plea. Lovely Danny, oh my gosh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Many of us have transitions from beginner to advanced growers. There are so many new questions that need answers and too much conflicting information out there. We need your help. Oh, thank you. Species, novelty, primary, complex. Each has different needs, temperature to spike, what to do with the spikes themselves, new medium to deal with, tree fern versus sphagnum moss, watering, repotting, expectations, troubleshooting. Oh my gosh, all of these things. Please consider making a new video series for this new group of growers that is the result of your profound orchid knowledge. Oh my goodness. I was thinking that like the orchid care for beginners I did this year is a little bit more like intermediate because I try to aim for long-term success. If you guys are okay with it, we can continue because you know, I kind of started this year, even though I name it Orchid Care for Beginners. It's not really like the basics, right? So if you want me to continue it like this, let me know, because that was already the plan. But if you'd like a specific new series about more intermediate growing, I'm not gonna do expert. I'm no expert myself, you know, and even if I would be, maybe in some areas I would not, you know, call myself expert because it's just cringe. So let's say more advanced beginners. If you'd like me to like really differentiate with a new series, let me know. But the plan was to make it a little bit more advanced this year with the beginner series as well. You gave me such great ideas here, especially with the species novelties, especially with the Phalaenopsis, can be a little tricky. So I will definitely do that idea, but I would like to put it up for a vote, quote unquote. Let me know, should I like start a brand new series or should I continue like in the Orchids Care for Beginners series? Let me know and give me ideas if you're like interested in maybe this new aspect. Give me ideas of subjects if you will, and yeah, I'm happy to oblige. Right, so that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. My voice has not failed so far. I have a few more videos to film, we'll see. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Leave me your questions down below in the comment section and I'll try my best to answer them in a future video. Thank you so much rePotme for sponsoring this video and the series. And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye!